Big Ben says he needs to do better. Is he the player under the most duress entering week 5? Chris Broussard has a list. Kyrie Irving still absent from practice. Is Kevin Durant naive to think Kyrie will be back with the Nets this season?
What is
countdown
happening?
Continues to Sunday night's meeting at Arrowhead. Good Thursday morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe alongside Kevin Wildes, Chris Broussard. Nick, look what's going on right over there. Look right over there, Nick.
It's chief practice.
Nick, look.
I see it.
Look that way.
Yeah.
But look at it. Look at the next. Look at Chiefs practice. Look at Bill's. Don't want to look. You got to look to see.
Everybody.
That's my new thing. You got to look to see. We kick things off in Chicago there. That joke will play itself out when it actually comes to fruition, ladies and gentlemen. But it backfired.
Oh, I get it. Oh, sorry, Jenna.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
That's okay.
Jenna was trying to get me to show America my ponytail. All right, we'll do that later. No problem. I'm not afraid.
Yeah, we're
There's
gonna
no
do it again.
shame in my
you know
game,
what?
Jenna
Re-rack.
Wolfe. Go ahead.
Let's start the show over.
No,
do
go
it
ahead.
one more time.
I didn't know what was happening.
We're in Chicago where it's been that's the story of my life, not yours. Where it's been a quarterback conundrum all season. The head-scratching decision not to name Justin Fields the starter. How about this, guys? Yesterday, an about turn. Bears finally named the rookie Justin Fields QB1. And not just for one game or one drive or one play. Matt Nagy made it clear the Bears are now Justin Fields' team, regardless of Andy Dalton's health. And for Justin, while he appreciates the opportunity, he knows the work that lies ahead.
My parents were actually at my house last night. I told them, and they wanted to go out to celebrate. And I told them, nah, I'm cool, because I'm trying to win this weekend. So, I mean, there's nothing. I mean, of course, there's some reason to celebrate, but I'm not just gonna be complacent with where I'm at. I'm gonna continue to grow, continue to get better, and just try to work hard each and every day to get wins on Sundays. So.
They didn't go out without you?
They went out without me, yeah, so.
Where'd they go?
At home. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where they went last night, but yeah, they went out without me last night.
You celebrate were you just home alone?
I was just home, yeah, with my dog Uno watching film last night, so that's all I was doing.
And Uno came up to the podium right after Justin. Hey, Broussard, you've been calling for Nagy to do this for weeks now. Was this the right move at the right time?
I love it. All right? I love it. Let the Justin Fields era begin. And I know Nick's got some snide comments. But look, if Matt Nagy...
Hold on.
If Matt Nagy can do a 180 in less than 48 hours, then why can't I? Why can't I?
Okay.
All right, Nagy has been... I don't... Look. I know Nagy denied it yesterday. He said it was his decision and his decision alone. But I can't help but think that maybe, just maybe, the GM Ryan Pace, the CEO Ted Phillips, one of them, maybe both of them, walked into Nagy's office yesterday, made a little small talk for about 5 minutes, and then on their way out the door said, and by the way, Fields is starting from here on out, and slam the door. like that's a logical explanation for this, because it is such a U-turn for Matt Nagy to do this. But it's fine. I was never against Justin Fields starting. I just thought the clamoring for him to be in there from day one just because he was such a high draft pick is wrong. I will forever push back on the notion that every rookie quarterback who's drafted in the first round has got to start from day one. All right, for some guys, that'll be great. Even if they struggle early, it'll be good for them. For others, they'll need a little time. And I didn't think you had to force Fields in there to play when he may not have been ready. And Dalton's not very good at this point, but he still was serviceable. All right, look, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, none of them started right away. And those careers have turned out okay. So That was my main thing with Fields. He did look better. I wouldn't say he looked good last week, but he definitely looked better. He definitely showed improvement. The game plan fit him better with with Bill Lazor calling the plays instead of Nagy. We'll see if they continue to do that. They should, obviously. And so let the Fields era begin. Nick, they did win one of 2 games in which he started, and they won the game in which he played the whole second half when Dalton got hurt. So you can even win a few games with him as well. So I'm cool with it.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're cool with it because yesterday was a sad day for Andy Dalton. It was a sad day for Andy Dalton's friends and family, of which Chris Broussard is evidently included. Didn't know Chris Broussard had such a long-standing relationship with Andy Dalton, but it's the only possible explanation for Broussard for the last month being like, let Andy run out there. I don't care if he's on one leg. Well, he's got to be the starter. My dear friend Broussard says, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. Well, he actually said Pat Mahomes, but he meant Patrick Mahomes. They all didn't start. Yeah, they didn't. But they were behind Drew Bledsoe, Brett Favre, Alex Smith. None of those guys are anything close to 2021 Andy Dalton. Here's the deal. This is obviously the right decision. Justin Fields, in this weekend's game against the Lions, had 5 passing plays of 20-plus yards. On the season, he is 5 of 8 on passes that travel at least 20 yards down the field. I want to show America real quick after these Justin Fields throws all of the Andy Dalton throws this year that have traveled at least 20 yards down the field. It's going to be a very quick video because there's none. He didn't throw any. Actually, the only quarterback in the league this year that had attempted at least 40 passes, and all of them were within 20 yards of the line of scrimmage. In modern football, you cannot win without explosives. You must be able to generate explosive plays. Justin Fields gives you the ability to generate explosive plays, which makes the defense have to respect those explosive plays, which actually make the intermediate stuff easier. It's one of my issues with Mac Jones, by the way, a rookie quarterback who is starting and ostensibly playing well, but not producing at a high level points-wise, well, yes, however, everything is in a phone booth. Everything is compacted. So once you can threaten the defense deep, then the easy stuff becomes easier because they're not so close to the line of scrimmage. Now, will the Bears struggle? Yes. Is their schedule brutal the next month and kind of the rest of the season? Yes. Do I think Justin Fields is going to have some bad moments? Of course. But you get better at playing football by playing football. And the only reason not to play a rookie quarterback is if you are a contending team with an established starter, a la San Francisco. I wasn't arguing you must put Trey Lance in immediately because Jimmy G was an established starter when healthy, has been serviceable, and they think they can go to the Super Bowl. And so I get it. The Bears are not in that situation. This was obviously the right call. And I think it actually worked out perfectly for the Bears. They got to keep their promise to Andy. He then got hurt, and Justin took over.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm glad you've come around that Jimmy G can take a team to the Super Bowl because you've been saying that he can't for 2 years, even though he literally did it.
Serviceable,
just for the record, can we give Andy Dalton a break? Andy Dalton didn't do anything wrong. He wanted a chance to start. He got the chance to start. He wasn't willing to, take the football and give it to Justin Fields. Andy Dalton hasn't done anything wrong. After Justin Fields was named QB1, he had a nice thing. I want to support him. He's been getting killed, Broussard. I know you love Andy Dalton more than most people, but the guy has been being unfairly ripped because there is a want to see Justin Fields. Here's the thing, though, and I'll throw it to Broussard. We're not out of the woods yet. You got manhandled by the Browns week 3. You played well against Dan Campbell, even though I had a promise that this guy was going to eat some kneecaps. He didn't. This Raiders team that he's going up against now, Pro Football Focus has that defensive line ranked number 1. They're 5th in quarterback hits. So, Broussard, the number 1 priority for the Bears going into that game, right behind winning the game, is protect Justin Fields. Because if you don't have all those for that protection, you're not going to be able to make any of those long throws.
Look at those next 6.
The Raiders defense, it's brutal.
Easy.
So the Raiders defense is going to get after them. They're also going to put a lot of points on the board. I don't feel great about the Bears' chances to win, but I agree with the decision to put Fields in finally.
Yeah, look, and one of my reasons for supporting Nagy when he kind of was like, well, Dalton's still our quarterback, I thought it was protecting Justin to some degree. Because if Justin had gone out and struggled in several games and you wanted to put Dalton back in, it wouldn't be a benching. It would just be, well, we told you Dalton's the guy. We just were waiting until he got healthy. And Justin's still developing. Now it would be a benching. But here's the thing. You can't do it. I don't care how bad Justin Fields looks in these next few games, if indeed he looks bad.
He's your guy now.
He's got to remain the starter. He's your guy. We saw last year Tua, Ryan Fitzpatrick in and out. Didn't work out. Was bad for Tua's psyche, everything. The narrative. So you have got to stick now with Justin Fields come hell or high water.
But I agree with you. But that Miami was in a unique position because they were fighting for the playoffs all year. The Bears are in the fortunate position that they're not a playoff contender.
Don't you think the Bears?
Well, then there's wrong. Well, they shouldn't. I don't
you
think
don't
they
think
should.
They
I think they should look at this year as a developmental
with a good
year.
Defense?
I'm sure they say inside the building, but I don't think there is the pressure like there was in Miami, where Miami last year was kind of a trendy pick to make the playoffs after the 2019 year was so much better than expected. To me, it's the same bucket the Jets and Jags are in, which is who are the backup quarterbacks for Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence? Does anybody know? Happens to be a guy named Mike White and C.J. Beathard. But it doesn't matter because those guys are going to start. They are going to take the lumps, Jenna. Justin Fields, same thing. You're going to have to take the lumps. The Bears are, it's not about wins and losses. It's about the development of their first franchise quarterback potentially since Sid Luckman. That's what we're talking about. 70 years of no franchise quarterback with respect to Smoking Jay Cutler. Yes. And let's just wait and see what Justin turns into, Jenna.
Loved him.
Just quickly look over at me. Look over at me.
I was about to, Jenna. Sorry.
We're gonna get
Animation ruined us.
Also, I looked the wrong way.
We'll get it some point.
And I looked the wrong way.
You did. That's okay.
Once again, Justin Fields named QB1 in Chicago. Much more on that still to come. We got to talk some Brooklyn Nets. Still no Kyrie at practice. Is KD naive to think that Kyrie will join the Nets at all this season? We'll talk about that next. First things first. And we will get next to look at me.
So bizarre.
This is draw blank. Talking the Brooklyn Nets this morning. Still no Kyrie at practice due to his vaccination status. But Kevin Durant, he's not worried at all. KD said yesterday, I'm envisioning Kyrie being a part of our team. Maybe I'm just naive, but that's just how I feel. But I think everybody here has that confidence in themselves and in our group that if we keep building, we can do something special. As Nick would say, then what are we doing here? All right, Broussard, Durant's comments on Kyrie are blank.
They are irrelevant. Irrelevant. I know they're great friends and all that, but look, while it is hard, if not impossible to predict what Kyrie Irving is going to do in any situation, one thing we do know is that no one, no doctor, no teammate, no coach, not the CDC, no one's going to convince Kyrie to do something he doesn't want to do. He is going to make his own decision. So as close as they are, Kevin Durant is basically just like the rest of us, hoping that Kyrie gets the vaccination. So his words in this case are irrelevant to me. Now, I spoke to a few people close to this situation yesterday, and I was told that Kyrie has, or had, maybe is the better word, kind of given indications and hints to the Nets that he's going to get vaccinated. And Kendrick Perkins actually reported yesterday, and I was told the same thing, that he actually had an appointment. Now, I don't know if the Nets set up an appointment or whatever for him to get vaccinated, and he didn't show up. So I don't know if that means he's still not going to get vaccinated or if he will. You know, who knows? But that is what has been out there. I don't know if it's true or not. Yes. All right.
You can literally walk into CVS.
I'm just
free
saying.
At every corner in America.
One person told me, I'm getting the indications from the Nets that they are going to, if Kyrie doesn't get vaccinated, they're going to try to go ahead and play him in the road games and see how it works. I don't think that's the plan for the entire season, but I think they would start that way. I think they would start that way. It was not definitive, but that's the indications I'm getting, that they would start that way and hope that he ultimately gets vaccinated. I'm fine with that if you start that way, but I can't see you doing that the whole season, and certainly not in the playoffs. So hopefully, if he doesn't get vaccinated before the playoffs or before the season, he'll at least do it midway through the season, if not earlier.
Yeah, try to get that appointment. I mean, my answer is honeymoon over, but like the fact that he had an appointment and didn't show up, like I get yelled at if I'm 5 minutes late, like picking my son up from hockey practice. The idea that he's going to lose $15 million if he doesn't get this vaccination, he's like, I missed it. Oops, 15 million? Oh, shoot, I didn't realize that was on the board. My answer is honeymoon over. The idea that Kevin Durant and Kyrie, they planned out this like beautiful partnership in the the hallway during the All-Star game, and we're gonna do this. Then Durant's hurt, and Kyrie doesn't show up, and now they play a handful of games together, Nick, and now he might not play at all. Now we're at the point where he's like, I envision him being part of this team. Like, this was supposed to be a super team that you crafted yourself. And what do we get? A handful of games? The fact that Durant has gone from I'm leaving Steph to I envision Kyrie being a part of this team, maybe I'm naive, is shocking to me.
Yeah, my answer is surreal, and I want to piggyback on what Wild said. This is really a remarkable quote about a player who's under contract on your team. I'm envisioning Kyrie being a part of our team, but maybe I'm being naive. He's literally on the team. You guys went there together. This quote makes more sense if it's a guy you want the Nets to trade for. But he's your wingman. And he's like, when I go to bed at night and lay my head on the pillow, I envision Kyrie being here. What is going on? Like, we have reached the part where this is almost parody. There is, and Kyrie, because, when he did the media availability, he's like, it's personal. So we don't get to know his galaxy brain rationale as to why this is something he won't do. But what we do know is he hasn't done it. And Broussard, I want to throw this to you because I think we have time here. It's good. Is there a rationale, a legitimate one, that ends with Kyrie getting the vaccine in 2 weeks? It's like, oh, you know what? I've now gotten the information. What is it? Tell me what it is. Let me hold on real quick before you.
Yeah, it's the same.
Before you explain it, explain it to me that where it's not that this whole thing was a look at me, I'm unique and interesting. Explain it to if he ends up getting it right before the start of the season. How was it not that?
Because his back is against the wall, Nick. Sometimes we all have to do things we don't want to do. Just like Andrew Wiggins. I salute Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins was like, I still don't believe in this. I didn't want to do it. But you know what? It was either get the shot or not play basketball. Not to mention the money you'd lose. So I think it's that. That's a rational decision. Some people don't like paying taxes, but you know what? You got to do it. So I just think it would be, I didn't want to do it, but hey, I want to play basketball. I want to make money. I want to be there for my teammates. I don't think it's a look at me situation.
But then why wouldn't he have gotten it?
I really don't want to do this.
But this isn't a new rule. My question is why then why would he skip the appointment? Why would he not get it yesterday or today? Like that the decision is at his feet, right? He knows the rules
he
right now.
He may have been hoping.
So the more of a delay. Go ahead.
He may have been hoping that there was some type of change, that there was some type of loophole, that maybe there's an exemption or something like that. I mean, that's probably what he's doing.
All right, well, we'll see. He's got 12 days to get that vaccination. Nets open the season 12 days from today in Milwaukee against the defending champs. All right, let's take a turn, get back to football. Talk about these slumping Steelers. Is Big Ben the player under the most duress entering Week 5? Chris Broussard breaking out his list. Next, first things first.
Could be Mahomes, Jenna. You never know.
Time now for Under Duress. Every Thursday, Chris Broussard does a deep dive on which players have the most on the line heading into the weekend. Great slate of games to pick apart. All right, Broussard, which 5 players are under the most duress entering Week 5?
All right, Jenna, let's start with one of those great games. Kansas City, Buffalo. Nick, is it Mahomes? No. It is Josh Allen. All right, look, the Bills' offense has been phenomenal over the last 3 weeks. They've averaged 39 points a game, but not necessarily because of Josh Allen. He's been good, he's been solid, but he hasn't played up to last year's MVP runner-up standards. They haven't really needed it either. They played Washington, Miami, Houston. They can get by those teams. This weekend, a step up in competition at Kansas City. They're going to need him to match Mahomes, throw for throw, touchdown for touchdown. Is he up to the task? We'll see. Number 4, Derek Carr. It was all good just a week ago, and then the Chargers faced the Raiders, and all of a sudden Derek Carr was mediocre. And to make matters worse, the Chargers defensive end Joey Bosa accused Carr of cowardice. He said, we knew when you hit him a few times, he gets shook. All right, he said that he was eventually curling up like a ball at the fear of getting hit. Carr even admitted those comments from Bosa got under his skin, and it brought to mind all this old talk about Carr being a little skittish in the pocket. So this weekend, he has got to put that myth to rest. All right, and no better time to do it than this weekend because they face Chicago, who, even though Nick says they have absolutely no chance of making the playoffs, they actually lead the league in sacks with 15. So Carr's going to get hit. Let's see how he handles it. All right, at number 3, Chase Young. All right, last year Chase Young was the man, defensive rookie of the year. There was talk that he might be defensive player of the year going into this season. Well, guess what? After 4 games, Chase has 0 sacks and only 2 quarterback hits. Not good enough. And that's a big reason why Washington has dropped off from a top 5 defense last year to like 29th overall and 30th in points allowed. Now, this weekend, they got New Orleans and the sneaky MVP candidate, Jameis Winston. So he's going to have to come out there and resurrect his image and that defense and get Washington back on track. At number 2, Baker Mayfield. Now, you know, when you go on IG and start trying to hush your detractors, you know it's gotten bad. All right, Baker's coming off probably the worst game of his career. 45% completions, just really looked bad last week. And now he's got to come out. There's talk about, is he good enough? The Browns are 3-1. Okay, so they're doing it kind of despite Baker. All right, they got weapons everywhere, and he's not producing. He's only got 2 touchdowns. Now also there's talk, of course, about a lucrative contract extension for Baker Mayfield. If he continues to be just average or pretty good at times, that contract extension could instead be a franchise tag or 2. All right, so there's a lot on the line for Baker. This week, he needs to come out and not only show that he can play at a higher level, but also that he can be on the same page with his most talented wide receiver, which is Odell Beckham Jr. So Baker is under duress. Now, number 1 may not be a surprise to anybody. It is our man, Big Ben Roethlisberger. All right, the bottom line is Ben is floundering, period. He's not playing well at all. He's got a nice receiving core. He's got a hot rookie running back in Najee Harris. And the last couple weeks, the offensive line is actually protected him pretty well, but he still looks washed. All right, he looks every bit of 39 years old. The good news for him is that Coach Mike Tomlin has backed him and said, he's my guy. And I get it. You got Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins on the bench. Where you going? All right, you got to stick with Ben. But here's the deal. They got Denver, Seattle, and Green Bay coming up. That 1-3 could quickly become 1-6 or 2-5. And then the Steelers, who've never had a losing record, Nick, under Mike Tomlin, are in major danger of putting that blemish on Tomlin's record.
Yeah. That's That is 100% correct, and I want to do something here. Because unlike, Chris Broussard when it comes to my tears, no matter how perfect and just every single layer, like a beautifully made cake, is ideal, Broussard finds a way to rip them apart. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like an inter-show rivalry. I've never quite understood. When something is excellent, I'm not afraid to say it. This is outstanding. I don't know that I would make one significant change here. I think Big Ben is the only thing I will just amplify Broussard's points because I think these are the exact 5 guys I would pick. Big Ben, it's not only that the team's bad, he's bad. His coach is basically openly blowing kisses to opposing quarterbacks. Did you guys see Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers? The little love fest this weekend? Yeah. A little wink, a little smile, a little I'm gonna shoot you a DM. How are you doing? I mean, they are, hey man, Big Ben's like, I'm still here. And Tomlin's like, yeah, but not for much longer. And that young man with that glorious hair of his can be my quarterback next year. So I think Big Ben's feeling it from all angles. You're absolutely right on Baker. Washington's defense has been one of the biggest disappointments of the season. Heineke has played well. If you would have gone into this year saying you were going to get that level of play out of Heineke, and you would say, wow, well, Washington should absolutely be competing for the division title or a playoff berth. And I know they have 2 wins, but the defense has been wildly disappointing. I agree with you on Carr. Players around the league don't respect him. Like, that's just clearly obvious. Like, he's a quarterback that gets mocked in a way most quarterbacks don't. And folks are going to argue about Josh Allen because they've outscored their opponents 118-21 the last 3 weeks. They're 3-1, all of that. And we'll talk more about this later, but I want to show America something on Josh Allen. This is from the start of last year to right now, and this is why I say he's a guy you can't trust. That's his passer rating by game. There is no consistency with him. His highs are super high, his lows are super low. So that is last year's regular season, the playoffs, and this year. So what you see this year is 2 bad games, 1 superb game against Washington, and then an okay game this past week against Houston. Doesn't really matter because they blanked them 40-0, so he didn't have to do much. But yeah, Josh Allen's going to have to be outstanding against Kansas City. The only... It's not even an addition I would make is squeezed in there if we're going to expand it to 6, Jameis Winston. And here's why. I know 8 touchdowns, 2 picks.
He's sneaky.
The Saints are 2-2. I almost wonder, Broussard, if Jameis has throttled it back too much. If the fear of making the mistake has made Jameis to where he's not taking big plays. Because he is, aside from the 1 game, he's played clean games. I understand that. But there have been some deep shots available that Jameis isn't taking. They're letting, by the way, the Saints are letting Taysom Hill come in to throw a deep shot, even though he's never been good at that, and Jameis is far better. So I just wonder, when Jameis saw some of his snaps going to Taysom, the offense, they lose to the Giants, all of that, I do wonder how much pressure's on him to try to open it up a little bit more. But that's a small edit. Otherwise, I think the list is outstanding.
Well, first of all, thank you, Nick, for the love. I know you're trying to soften me up for next week's tears, but I get it.
No,
Yes, I appreciate it. Winston, I think that's a good point about Winston maybe trying to be overly cautious. Now, I don't think they're calling a ton of stuff for him downfield. Some of that's the game plan. But you are right.
Sure.
When it is available, he still hasn't attacked it. So hopefully he comes out of that. He's going to have to come out of that. They're fortunate to be 2-2 because obviously nobody thinks they would beat the Packers like that now, right? So he's got to come out of that if they're going to make the playoffs, as I've predicted. Wilds? Any more love? Petunias, flowers,
oh yeah,
roses?
I've got one. I think it's a wonderful list. I just want to add one, and it's personal for me, and that's my guy, Jimmy G. And as a fellow member of the Handsome Men's Club, when Jimmy G is in pain, I am in pain too. The walls are closing in. From all angles, Jimmy G is under attack. And it's not just because his calf is hurt. He didn't practice yesterday. He might not play against the Cardinals. This goes back to the old Tom Brady and Seth Wickersham's book. Whereas in Seth Wickersham's book said Brady wanted to go to the 49ers. They didn't want him. And then everyone's like, oh, that's what you were talking about on the shop when you said, oh, you're sticking with that, blank, blank. So that's Jimmy G. Jimmy's like, geez, that was like last year. I'm still getting banged for this. Then let's go to Chicago. Justin Fields gets the nod. So now all the rookie quarterbacks are starting. Trevor's starting. Zach Wilson's starting. The great Mac Jones is starting. Now Justin's starting. Uh-oh, you got to look around like, uh-oh, that means Trey Lance is going to start. And they're playing the Cardinals, the undefeated Cardinals, which was going to be, Broussard, a great time for Jimmy G to say, hey, remember Jimmy G might not put up the gaudiest numbers except when it comes to the win column. But if he's not playing in this game and Kyler wins, then I think the 49ers brass would be like, he played okay. If he plays a little bit, is he the worst quarterback in our division now? Like, yeah, probably. Maybe we just pull the plug and go with Trey Lance. So Jimmy G, I'm very nervous, Broussard. That's why I think he is under duress from all angles.
Well, I didn't consider Jimmy G because he wasn't playing this weekend, but you make great points. And here's another thing I'm going to throw out at you, Wilds. And I don't know. He may end up being the starter. They still are playing for something. Obviously, they want to make the playoffs. So if Trey really looks bad, they might throw Jimmy G back in there. But here's the thing, Wilds. We all know he's moving on next year, right? And if I'm a team in need of a quarterback, I'm fine with Jimmy G, right? I think he'd have suitors. But the problem is who's going to look at him and say we can count on him being our starting quarterback.
Correct.
He's going to get hurt.
No way.
That's the feeling. I mean, this was so inevitable. It's a calf. I mean, of all the injuries, it was a calf. So it just shows one way or the other he's going to get banged up. So I think he's under duress for even that additional reason.
So real quick, he's not ruled out. But if you were Jimmy G and you know you have this kind of injury sort of tag on your whole career, do you push through and say, like, you know what, I'll do what I can, I got to get out in the game? Or do you say, like, you know what, I'll try to keep my job in practice, no use trying? I think that's a bad call.
I think you try to fight to play.
To Kyler
I think if he's available, I think if he is at all any chance of being able to play, Jenna, I think he tries to fight through because of the tag Broussard's talking about. Because there's been a knock on him. He seems so frustrated after the game last week that if he can go, even if he's not 100%, I think he tries to fight his way into playing. I think he does.
Yeah, I think it's going to be bad.
I think it just all depends on the severity of the injury. Like, because if he goes out there, let's say he plays the whole game and fights through it, but it gets worse and then he has to miss games down the line, it's the same thing. So he could be, let me sit out, get this thing right. And if Trey doesn't look good, there's a good chance they get beat and maybe embarrassed by Arizona. And Trey doesn't look good. I'm not saying he's pulling for Trey to struggle, but maybe he's, he gets in there in the week after. So it's a tough call.
Go up against the Cardinals.
The bottom line is,
not going to be easy.
He's getting hurt.
You know who wasn't on that list? This guy, Josh Allen, and last week's list guy, which has got to be a better way to say it, Patrick Mahomes. We're back talking the game Nick had circled on his calendar for months. Oh, he was on the list. He was on the list. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Nick was sweating. Okay. He thought it was going to be Mahomes.
That's what he thought. So he's happy now. You know, we're going to talk about that rematch. Matchup Sunday night at Arrowhead. Two great teams, two great quarterbacks, despite what Nick will tell you. Nick, Mahomes is good. Don't undersell him. Bills quarterback Josh Allen has yet to beat Patrick in two head-to-head matchups, but he knows the Chiefs are the gold standard in the AFC, and he said as much yesterday. With that, we welcome in former head coach, three-time Super Bowl champ Eric Mangini to deliver his keys to the game. Coach, good morning to you. What is your game plan for the Bills to take down the Kings of the AFC in Kansas City?
Oh, I want to hear this.
Well, first thing, I'm a little disappointed, Wilds, that I wasn't invited to the Handsome Men's Club. I didn't get that invite. I was a little taken aback going into the segment. But let's talk about the game. And from the Bills' perspective, the first thing they need to do is they can't let Kansas City consistently run the ball. And that may sound like a strange thing, but when they played last year, it was about this time during the season, Kansas City ran the ball 46 times for, I think it was a 5-point 8 average, something along those lines. And what it did is it established that they would do that, and it sent a message to the league. And you hear Mahomes talking this week, and he's talking about the need to run the ball again. So that's going to be an issue in the game. And the second thing is from Josh Allen's standpoint, Josh Allen needs to be able to match some of Mahomes' playmaking ability. When you get paid what he gets paid, it's not just managing the game, it's being able to make plays against other great players. And let me show you what I mean from the AFC Championship game last year. In this example, Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley, his two key receivers, are in the slot. And what Kansas City is going to do is they're going to take away both of them. They're going to double team each guy with a down cornerback and the safety and make sure that that's not an option. Take that out of his read. Then they're going to use Frank Clark, and they're going to have him spy. And what that means is the other guys can rush, and then whenever Allen declares, he would go ahead and match it and not let him beat him with his feet. But as he looks down the field, Kansas City does a great job. Everybody is covered across the board. There's no real option, so he's going to have to be able to buy some time here and make a play. Buffalo does a nice job to actually get a hat on the spy, so this gives him a little bit of time. He slides out to his right, the receiver reads out of it, and he makes a really good play. And those are the types of things. It's different than just managing the game. He's got to be able to somehow generate some plays against this defense. So that's the second thing that they have to do. But let's look at it from Buffalo's defensive perspective. They've got to find a way to disrupt Kansas City's offense. 2 games last year, they had 1 turnover total, no interceptions, 1 forced fumble. They had 2 sacks total. Then they gave up 23 explosive plays and 8 touchdowns. So they've got to be able to disrupt the offense. And let me show you an example of them not being able to, the right idea, but not being able to execute it. So in this shot, they go ahead and they take 2 linebacker types and they put them in the A-gap. And they're trying to get Kansas City to slide down to pick up those players, which they're able to do. Now they just bring the end off the edge. He's going to be unblocked. The back is free releasing, so they're only rushing 4 guys. They take those 2 interior players, they drop them out so they've got the full complement of coverage. This is a really good design play. They get in, Mahomes looks down the field. Just like we saw with Allen, everybody's covered. He's got a defender on him, a free blitzer, but Travis Kelce is going to read away. Mahomes doesn't get pulled down, and it's a completion, a 3rd down conversion. So these examples and these opportunities, they're pretty few and far between, but when you get them, you have to take advantage of them, and they've got to find some way to generate a negative play to slow down this offense.
All right, that was a great breakdown, and every week these are great. This was particularly impressive because Coach was able to find, from the 2 games last year, a really good Bills play on offense and an almost good Bills play on defense. Those might have been the only 2 because the Chiefs embarrassed them twice last year. And this is as big of a regular season game for Buffalo as they've had in years. They built their entire offseason around how can we prevent Kansas City from dog walking us the way they did last year. First matchup, Coach said it, but I will reiterate it, 46 runs, 245 yards, and allowed Mahomes to complete 80% of his passes. Second matchup, AFC Championship game, the Chiefs spot the Bills 9-0, and then go on an AAU basketball style 38-6 run in the AFC Championship game. Josh Allen has never played a good game against the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes has never played a bad game against Josh Allen. We can show the numbers. They are jarring and startling. And this is what Buffalo is chasing. That's not close. That's not MVP-ish. That is one guy who was amazing, the other guy who was terrible. And for Buffalo, if you look at their schedule, it works for them and against them, Coach. And here's what I mean. If we can show the schedule, it works for them they have an incredibly soft schedule. They've had one up to this point, and after the Chiefs game, it resumes incredibly soft as well. Oh, look at that middle column. Dolphins, Jags, Jets, Colts. They are going to be able to rack up wins just like they racked up wins early in the year. But, Coach, if they can't hang with Kansas City, I'm asking you, no matter what they do against bad teams, what's their headspace going to be like headed into the postseason when they know the Super Bowl goes through the Chiefs? If they got whooped by him in one way in the regular season, whooped by him in another way in the postseason, and then if the Chiefs beat them this year when the Chiefs arguably are shaky, defense not playing well, 2-2, and they are playing the best football of any team in the league, if the Chiefs beat them again, is that a massive mental edge no matter what they do the rest of the regular season?
Well, we saw that Baltimore obviously wasn't shook by the Chiefs this season, and it was one of those situations where they hadn't been able to beat them as well, but they did, and each year is its own entity. One of the advantages that Buffalo has is playing them twice last year, and you do go back and you look at those games and you say, okay, here's what worked, here's what didn't work, here's what we need to emphasize, and that knowledge, that those reps that you can build off of, I'm really interested to see what they do with it. I obviously respect Brian Daboll and appreciate how smart he is. I think that his working knowledge of the Chiefs from last season should translate really well into this year. And the Chiefs, look, they're struggling in their own right, and they've got to establish that they're the dominant team that you keep claiming they are.
Coach, you mentioned Josh Allen's got to be able to match Pat Mahomes with some big plays. Allen's had one good game this year, or great game against Washington. Other than that, he's been solid. They haven't needed him to be great. What are you seeing from him? His accuracy is not what it was a year ago. We know there's a big question mark about him. How confident are you in him to be able to play at the level he did last year and match Mahomes?
I'm confident in the sense that he's shown consistent growth year in and year out, and he's had the same offensive situation throughout that. And what happens, especially early in the season, especially with high expectations, is you press, and pressing can put you in a negative situation as opposed to a positive situation. I'm sure Brian Daboll's talking to him about you don't need to do anything besides what you consistently have done, which is perform at a high level, especially over the last couple of years. So I think that he's going to respond well in this game. I think that he's going to make plays that he hasn't been able to make in the past against Kansas City. But what I'm hoping that he doesn't do is try to force things and try to change the game that way and create some negative plays.
Okay, first, Coach, I want to apologize because I put a little too much Jameson in the old Irish coffee this morning so I'm a little bit silly. I got to make sure I understand what I'm hearing. Because it boils down to this for me. Is Josh Allen as good as Jalen Hurts? Would anyone take Jalen Hurts over Josh Allen? I wouldn't. And Jalen Hurts last week threw for, and I'm going to make sure this right, and again, I'm drunk as a skunk, 387 yards against the Chiefs, and then he was also running the ball, so a total of 434 yards for Jalen Hurts. The Eagles never punted. So the idea that Josh Allen is worried about the Chiefs' defense, which has given up yards to everybody, seems bonkers to me. I just feel like Josh Allen's going to go in there and cook the Chiefs. I know we're trying to be nice and diplomatic, and Nick is on the show. He's got a new hairstyle, but so I think this game might be a blowout for Josh Allen.
I didn't even notice Nick's new hairstyle. That must be an adjustment that he's made based off of Kansas City's poor start this season. Yeah, look, their defense has struggled, but in any of those situations, going into that game, you can't force it, and you can't be in a mindset where I'm gonna make a big play at all costs. When I say that he's got to match the plays that Patrick Mahomes makes, I mean that within a context of the rest of the game. Are there huge opportunities for him? Yeah, I think there is, and I think there's also opportunities based off of the working knowledge that they have from the two games last year against Kansas City.
Make another guarantee, Wilds. Do it. Make another guarantee.
He won't
coward.
do it. Not yet.
Do
It's
it.
too early.
Bills over
Do
Chiefs,
it.
just
Too
like
early.
Chargers over Chiefs. I'm 1-1.
Got to head to Chicago, where the Bears finally did the thing yesterday, naming Justin Fields QB1. Right move, right time. Talk about it next. First things first. All right, time now for stories to start your morning. Yeah, I give them all the info. It's sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve big matchups Sunday night at Arrowhead. Fox Bet Sportsbook has Kansas City favored by 2.5 points over Buffalo in this AFC title game rematch. Bills quarterback Josh Allen has yet to beat Patrick Mahomes in 2 head-to-head matchups. Nick, what do you make of the Chiefs only being favored by 2.5 points?
Well, I would like to thank Fox Bet for giving the Kansas City Chiefs something I don't know that they needed, but they will certainly take, which is bulletin board material. What an insult. Favored by less than 3 at home. Literally never happened in the Patrick Mahomes era. What Fox Bet is trying to sell you here is, if this game were on a neutral field, the Bills would be a half-point favorite. Maybe even a full-point favorite, because Arrowhead is in some books worth 3.5 points because of the volume of the stadium. I didn't think I'd live to see the day that the Chiefs were favored at home with a healthy Patrick Mahomes by less than 3 points. It's never happened. Last year, when they insulted the Chiefs by making them only 3-point favorites in the AFC Championship game against this very same Bills team, the Chiefs responded by outscoring the Bills 38-6 after spotting them a 9-0 lead. Wilds, I'm sure you're lapping this up like manna from heaven because it continues your narrative that is going to really come back to bite you, that somehow this is a game the Bills should be favored in because you think the Bills are better. So you think I imagine your look at the line is different than mine. Not that the Chiefs should be at least 3.5 or 4-point favorites, but that the wrong team is favored. But no, this is the smallest home favorite the Chiefs have ever been since Mahomes has been the starter. It is a wild insult coming off a game where the Chiefs played perfectly on offense. So yeah, I'm surprised by it. I'm surprised Fox Bet would screw it up like this, and it's jarring to me. Wilds, jarring.
Okay, yes. Perfectly on offense is the key there.
Offense.
You guys have a great offense. Problem is, you need a full wardrobe. To be a quality team. It's like you guys have a tuxedo top and then like one of those barrels like people wore in the Depression. Like, looks good, right, guys?
Pink sweatpants
no, it doesn't.
Now.
You're wearing a barrel.
Doesn't matter, actually.
You give up the second most points. You give up the second most yards. Meanwhile, Buffalo has posted 2 shutouts. So do I think Buffalo is going to win this game, Broussard? I do. I'm on the verge of another guarantee, to be honest with you. I'm going to hold off till tomorrow, but I'm right there on the cusp of it. And here's the other thing. You can say Josh Allen is up and down, and like, all right, is he going to have a good game? Is he going to have a bad game? I buy your chart. But does anyone think that Josh Allen in the Bills offense is not as good as the Eagles offense, who didn't have to punt last week? And Jalen Hurts threw for 387 in total of 434
Wilds, that game
yards.
was, hold on.
I think Josh Allen
Wilds,
is better.
you keep bringing up this Eagles game. I was in Philly for it, so I don't know how the broadcasts work. I know you were traveling to New England. Did they not have that game available to you on television? That game was 42-23 with 5 seconds left. With 5 seconds left, it was 42-23. Well, you keep spinning it like the Eagles were in the game. They were down 19 points with 5 seconds left. That's a fact,
the Eagles moved the ball at will. They moved the ball at will, and they would have had another touchdown if they didn't have a silly pick play call. They moved the ball at will, and they never had to punt. So, Broussard, I am on the verge of a guarantee. I don't know where you are, but I am right there on the cusp of guaranteeing a Bills victory.
I'm not going to guarantee it, but Nick, I hate to say this. I keep repeating, the Chiefs are my Super Bowl pick. I'm not changing it right now. I got the Bills winning this game. I think they're going to go in there and beat your Chiefs. And let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about the line. And you know this better than me. The Chiefs rarely win by the spread, right? Rarely. They rarely protect the spread.
That's true.
And that is why, right? That is why it's probably lower than you would expect it to be. But beyond that, you've talked about the 2 games last year as if, I mean, you may have even used the term, the Chiefs boat raced them, mollywopped them, all your favorite terms for shellacking. Not in the first game. It was 26-17. the regular season game. I'll give you the playoff game. But the regular season game was 26-17. It was 13-10 at halftime. And guess what? Buffalo was not as good last year as they are this year. And Kansas City, at least on the defensive side, was better by a nice little margin last year than they are so far this year. So you can't poo-poo Buffalo all you want. Like, Buffalo was a middle-of-the-road run game last year. Now they're top 5. Buffalo was a middle-of-the-pack defense last year. Now they're atop the league. Like, they are legitimate. They can pass the football, obviously, especially against that defense, and they can run the football. This is a game, and I'm not saying Buffalo's better at the end of the season, but right now, Buffalo is better. Nothing to do with Pat Mahomes. Mahomes going to do his thing.
Okay,
but that defense, you keep
let me ask you guys
overlooking
both
it.
the question.
Josh Allen is going to have a field day, and they're going to run the ball well too. They're going to have both attacks going.
Josh Allen went up against this defense twice last year, was bad in both of those games. That's first of all. Second of all, last year the Bills had MVP level play at the quarterback position. This year they don't. But I want to ask Wilds a question. Honesty, honesty moment here. If the Kansas City Chiefs had played, let me just give it to you exactly, Pittsburgh, Miami, Washington, and Houston, do you think they would be at least 3-1? Because I know you're a standings guy. The way Buffalo is, maybe even 4-0. And if the Bills had played Cleveland, Baltimore, the Chargers, and the Eagles, do you think they would be better than 2-2, first of all? And do you think they would have the #1 defense in football? Like, this idea that, does anyone actually believe the Bills have the best defense in the NFL? Does anyone that's watched the league through a quarter of the season think they have the best defense, or do they think that their defensive rankings are similar to, hey, the Broncos are 3-0? And it's like, yeah, man, they played the Jets, Jags, and Giants. You played Davis Mills, Jacoby Brissett, Ben Roethlisberger, and Taylor Heineke. Your defense is going to look good. They are about to get dunked in the deep end of the pool on Sunday night, Wilds. From a defensive perspective, they're going to have to score every time. Okay. You think they can. I don't think they will.
Well, here's the thing. The Chargers went in there and beat them, and you called me a doofus when I said he should be worried. You said, no, Wilds, you're a doofus, and then it happened. And he said, big bounce-back game in Philadelphia, and we were all like, yeah. But then the defense didn't show up. The offense showed up. Tyreek Hill showed up. But the defense didn't show up. And I understand that you guys scored a lot of points, but as a defense, then it's almost more of an indictment. They're like, all right, let's let the Heisman Trophy winner just do his thing then. It'll be great for his reel. I don't understand why the defense didn't show up and you let Jalen Hurts run all over you.
So
Nick, I'll add this.
I don't think. Go ahead, Broussard. Go ahead.
Just quickly, let me add this. You're right about the schedule. The Bills' schedule's been weak, but they're doing what you do to weak teams. They're blowing them out. They're not barely winning. They're not struggling for a half. They are blowing them out. So you got to give them that.
No, I will give them that. I don't think the Bills are a bad team. I think the 5 best teams in the AFC are the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Browns, not in that order. The Chiefs will have, after Sunday night, played the 4 other teams. It's the toughest schedule of anyone in the league so far this year. Jenna really wants me to show you something. I don't know what she's talking about. No, Jenna, I can't. There's nothing to look. I got nothing to look at, Jenna. Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about, Jenna. I got something else.
Oh, yes!
I got something to look at over here.
Oh, look at the man.